Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Sisters and brothers, theys and thems, all you citizens of the world, welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of April 3rd. And I'm joined right now with Euan Hague, and Euan has hooked us up with the one and only Joe Schwieterman, who is an air transportation expert. And we've had a lot of news about current airline delays and ICE going to the airports. Fill us in a little bit.
We've had repeated experiences with this, with the budget shutdown, you might say. And, many services can be put off. We suffer when, agencies close and so forth. But TSA lines at airports, that hits people right away. And the first couple times, the agents, I think, were really good-spirited about it. They get deferred pay. They eventually get paid. But third time around, I think they're feeling they're used as like political pawns here. We're going to have a showdown in Congress, and you're not going to get paid. And if you suffer at the airport, so be it. And they're really feeling it on the front line. So lots of resignations, lots of sick outs, lots of really fed up passengers with long delays. And we got a little relief this week when President Trump issued that executive order, but it's been a tough March.
Yeah, how were Chicago's airports impacted? It didn't look quite as bad as it did some other places around the U.S.
We have fared okay in this, and I mean okay meaning lines got up to about 45 minutes, which seems like an eternity when you're in lines. You ask people how long they're in TSA lines, and they'll say a half hour, and it's really 9 minutes, but it just feels long because you're nervous about your flight. But this time we saw, I think the highest I saw was like 55 minutes. But I think, one thing that's different is airlines now and airports have gotten real good at having trackers to show how long that line is so people can adjust. But people are getting to O'Hare like 3 hours early. And so the gates were just chaotic with so many people. The airlines actually sent out a note saying, don't arrive so early. This is, causing a real constraint at the airport. But Atlanta and others got up to about 3 hours, and that's meltdown type waits.
Yeah, and of course, the federal government tried to mitigate this by, they said mitigate, I don't know if it was, by putting ICE in some airports as well, which probably exacerbated situations.
Yeah, there's been no evidence presented that it did much good or any good, you might say. There was a lot of talk they're helping people with their bags and they're, dealing with some of the line disorderliness and so forth. But that doesn't speed up getting people through. And the real constraint, of course, is the body scanners. And if you're not going to help on that, it didn't have much good. It didn't cause what I feared was going to be kind of a pushback at the airports where people are going to vent their frustration to the president at the agents and perhaps having, skirmishes. But that's not saying much. There isn't much evidence it did much good.
Mm-hmm. I did hear that ICE was checking people's IDs in some places. And I also heard that a dog bit one of the ICE agents.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, we did have a skirmish in San Francisco where they, apprehended somebody. We were told that was unrelated to the TSA presence. But yeah, those small things like the dog would be an example. And apparently they're going to stay. So that's the head scratcher here. Now that even the agents are getting paid, they may stick around, and that just doesn't feel right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that another case of ICE being used improperly and really with no legal basis?
I can't answer that per se. They're not adequately trained to run the scanners, so they didn't step into that hornet's nest. But yeah, there's an intimidation factor at the airports that is just unfortunate because people feel, I don't want to subject myself to a possible apprehension and so forth. So airlines really were resistant to this too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How have the airlines reacted? I mean, we obviously as Mike and I were just talking about. I just came back from a trip to Puerto Rico and had no problems really with any of the lines. Got there really early at the airport. But we obviously see a lot of this from the passenger and consumer side. What about from the side of the airlines themselves?
Well, airlines are really feeling it right now. It's really a 1-2 punch. It's these TSA lines that are discouraging bookings. Where you're at the peak of summer bookings, people saying, maybe I'll just drive, or we'll go to St. Louis instead with a longer trip. And so they're making no secret that this is a really tough time for them. The economy's kind of slowed down as well. But Delta pulled a kind of a interesting move where they revoked their arrangements where people in Congress could sidestep the lines, with tickets on Delta. I think partly, truthfully, they're feeling overwhelmed by this and didn't want to devote the resources to let congressmen skip the lines. But it's also saying a pretty nice statement, like, if you're traveling on a recess and you haven't solved this problem, we don't look to us to treat you like a VIP. And so I felt that was a nice gesture. But the other thing is these fuel prices. I mean, this is just, it's come on so fast. I mean, the price of fuel, is up so much that the airlines are feeling that maybe a loss this summer if the fuel prices doesn't come down. Summer is the time you make all your money. So they're pretty upset. They're taking out editorials in newspapers. And of course, the lobbying machine is full tilt. And unfortunately, it looks like these high oil prices may continue a little while.
Joe Schwieterman, what does this current crisis tell us about the future?
Well, this one I predicted right, that air travel would bounce back after the pandemic. People thought, business travel down, air travel is going to be different. It is different, but the volumes at O'Hare, we surpassed 2019 last year. And we're on steroids at O'Hare right now. Both American and United are growing. They're almost in a tit-for-tat battle for dominance. And so O'Hare is just an incredible success right now. But I think the hassle factor of flying, with TSA issues, a lot of these short hop flights are not making money now because they're so fuel intensive that, the Wall Street's pretty nervous. So airline stock prices have fallen a bit.
The other way airlines make money is something we don't often think about, but I know that you've done a lot of work in this area, Joe, is shipping and freight and air cargo. I mean, like Amazon and other airlines, they're buying up airfields to make sure we get stuff delivered by 2 p.m. this afternoon.
Oh, yeah. And they've all levied surcharges. And what the big retailers are trying to do is entice customers not to want next day or same day delivery. And they're doing that at the same time they're trying to expand same day delivery. So it's just trying to get people who really don't need something that fast to settle for a 2-day delivery where you can put it on a truck and get it halfway across the country. So they've actually cut back the number of flights. At the same time, they're launching these drone delivery systems for things people want really fast. So here in Chicago, a pilot's going to start soon in the south suburbs, where 2 airports are going to have these drone landing areas where for a $4.99 fee, you can get same-day delivery on a drone if you have a backyard landing pad, so to speak. So we're going to be piloting that. But you're right that shipping stuff all around the country from all these eBay shippers and so forth for overnight delivery just got a lot more expensive, and that's their free delivery for that's gone down a bit.
Joe, let me ask you one more question. We all know that Chicago is the greatest city in the world, and I like to think that it's got a great transportation system. I've always lived kind of close to the L. We got buses running around. Are we a good transportation system, or am I just talking pie in the sky?
Well, you're also preaching to the choir. I mean, I've spent, and a lot of us have at DePaul, looked at Chicago and its role. It's really incredible. We forget that we are the global rail hub center for freight. We're Amtrak's principal hub. We got the only airport in the world with 2 big hubs side by side at O'Hare with American United. And, we're working to save the intercity bus station, the Greyhound station, because it's threatened right now. We're a really important hub for that. And I think, we kind of take it for granted a little bit that we're seen around the world as mission control when it comes to transportation. And hopefully our transit system will get that running a little better with the new legislation.
We want to thank you for coming on live from the Heartland. You are now our official transportation expert. We'll bring you on as often as need be. Everybody else.